Konami Studios.
So, the Eternals have a new book. Issue 2 is here. And I was very, very skeptical of the first issue. I've said it before, I will say it again. The Eternals aren't cool. They're not fascinating characters. Their world is too grand and big, dude. I think it just doesn't work or have any interesting qualities. Saying all that, I actually found this book to be a very smart and well-executed piece of fiction. Very in-depth in what it's trying to do in its science fiction. Very grandiose in its portrayal of the world. I didn't hate it. I actually didn't hate it. I'm still not a fan of the artwork. And I know there's a huge audience for Asad Ribić's art. I'm not one of those people. I just can't get behind this. But I finally think I get what's being said in this book. So if you want me to rag on this book like I did in the first issue, and that's what you're expecting from me, I'll tell you now, I'm not going to rag on it. I'm going to say some things I don't think are positives about the book. But I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to try my best to go through this. I think there is so much to cover and just so many small details that make this book unique and interesting that it's hard to explain. But I'm going to do my best to cover this book for you, because if you don't buy it, then it's probably not going to get another run. We'll see though. It's fine. So we pick up where we left off with the Thanos fight, and it looks like things are about to go badly. So Ikaris is trying to get Sprite to leave, but it's not working. And my first favorite part of this book is kind of just the dialogue between Ikaris and Thanos, and it's this idea that Ikaris has never actually fought Thanos before, so he's kind of excited to see if he can take down, the Mad Titan. And my favorite line of dialogue in the entire book comes from Thanos. He's like, a fellow poet of annihilation, fantastic, let us trade verse. I'm just like, that is very clever. That line of dialogue, it's not a lot, it's just something very smooth and clever. I'm like, that makes sense that you'd say that in the middle of a fight. So the two go through a fight pretty much between time and space. There's portals opening up all around them, taking them to different periods. And it's just cataclysmic events happening around time and space. And these two are still fighting. But it looks like Ikaris is losing, and he's not going to be able to walk away from this fight. And he gets his head ripped off by Thanos. You're like, oh shit, they just killed him. And if Thanos wasn't too glory hungry, and he just didn't seize his victory when he had it, he probably would have noticed that it was all an illusion from Sprite, and that Sprite and Ikaris were actually trying to get away from him. So they managed to escape. They're trying to find a way out of here. They need to be we got to go to Olympia and tell everybody that Thanos is doing something dark here. So they're making their way across time and space, but as they're walking, Ikaris again is having these weird visions that he saw before. In the last issue, he saw this vision of this child named Toby Robson, I think is what the name was. Now he's seeing this man standing on the side of a beach, and this man is staring at this monster. So we see that Ikaris goes to this beach and this man, and he sees this man. He's like, have you seen the monster? And it's this interesting dialogue between the man and Ikaris, are you a god? And Ikaris is kind of there's no way for me to answer that. I am not a god, but a god would deny they're a god, so I am a god, but you are a god too, kind of. And the idea is that there's a monster out there that the man doesn't see, and he's supposed to see it because he believes Ikaris is this god. Ikaris tells him to build a pyre, and when the time comes that the monster returns, he will be there to slay the monster. And then we see the timeline of this young man as he's growing up, and he's been by the fire the whole time. He gets a wife and he has kids, and he's an old man who dies by the fire. And when he dies, his family is just this broken memory. This is what our grandfather became, just a guy sitting by a fire waiting for something to return. But then Ikaris does return, and he realizes that the monster may never come. And this is where he starts to realize that the man he saw in his vision on the when he was running away from Thanos on Titanos, that was not the man he saw at the beach when he originally got there. The person he saw in his vision on Titanos was the grandson of the man who had built the pyre. And you're like, that's a pretty interesting thing to see. So then that man sees the monster, and it kind of comes full circle, this weird. This was I think this part right there, I was like, okay, I see what Kieran Gillen is doing here. He's I'm going to go so slow and methodical, giving you this big expository story, but I'm also going to show you these little beats of these immortal people, showing how they cannot fully connect to the mortal lifestyle And I think that was actually pretty compelling. That little story about the man waiting by the pyre and it being the wrong man that Ikaris couldn't see, I think that's a really cool just like couple of pages to throw in this book just to make you feel something for Ikaris and that character. I think that's very interesting. And throughout this book too, we are seeing that I forget what they call it, like the machine. Oh, I forget what they called it. The machine, like the mother box figure, like the machine that's talking is doing like the narration throughout the book, and it's trying to think like it's broken and it can't feel anything. So we cut back to Olympus, where we see that Kingo and Druid are there, just like, okay, so Thanos couldn't get control of the machine and travel through our network because he's not a true immortal. So somebody's obviously setting him up. And it kind of gets into a shouting match where Druid and Ikaris are both accusing each other of doing things. Like one was the last to wake up, one's always been a conspirator. Something about that is kind of just like, who's at fault here and what's really going on? And then Fastius shows up and he's like, why are we all fighting? What's this going to accomplish? We can't win anymore. Everything bad seems to be coming in place. And you're like, these men are about to beat each other silly. But in walks Cersei, finally. The character that we all were waiting for is finally here, and she's like, why don't we all calm down? You know, Thanos could be around any corner ready to attack us. We probably shouldn't be yelling. I'm going to come with Ikaris. We're going to go talk about this away from the peering eyes. Anybody who wants to be part of our conspiracy can come. And it's pretty much everybody but Druid shows up, and they're having their little moment in solitude where they can like talk and figure out some stuff. And I like Cersei's kind of taking charge here, because there's this other idea that came in play that Zuros will not be able to like be resurrected because Fastios was where like the exclusion was, where everybody comes back to life, and it seems like the people that bring the Eternals back are dead, so they're probably not going to be coming back this time, and because of that they need a new like Prime Eternal to be like their leader. And I'm going to say the idea is probably going to go between Ikaris and Cersei to take that title. We'll have to wait and see. I don't really know. But then there's just like some of the conspiracy stuff that if Thanos is back, there's a huge possibility that the Earth will be destroyed and everything's going to go bad and things aren't going to go well. And then Cersei's like, well, if there's a traitor in the midst, we have to figure out who it is. We'll keep our quiet council here while we figure it out. And the idea comes into play that Ikaris can't be like one of the conspirators who can't like shift around and be secret because he's the Superman character. The Superman character is not a spy. You know, you could get Kingo, or is it Klingo? I can't even remember anymore. I think it's Kingo and Sprite and Cersei and Fastios can all do like the spy thing, but not Ikaris. So he's like, just call me when you need me to punch somebody and I'll come there to help you out. So until that happens, I'm out of here. You guys do your thing and have fun with that. So I really like that interpretation, actually. I think out of every Eternal, if you're going to focus your story on one of them, it might as well be Ikaris because he's probably the easiest to understand, just because it's like, oh, he's an immortal, like, deity guy. Makes sense. You're perfect blonde boy. A lot of people are going to follow that character, so that's fine by me. As I said too, I just can't get into this artwork. I think there are some moments where I see it and it looks really good. Then there are other moments where I see it and I'm like, I don't like the lack of details here. I don't like the way the faces look. There's just something so random about the aesthetic. It all looks very smooth, but sometimes the faces don't have enough to make me go, that's greatly done. And sometimes I'm just like, the style looks great, like the etching and the colors look fantastic, but the rest of it just lacks that certain oomph to make me go, yeah, that's good. I don't like it. I don't love it, I should say. It's not that I don't like it, I don't love it. So Ikaris leaves the Quiet Council, and he's going to go figure out some more stuff, what's going on with him. So he goes to New York, where he finds Toby Robson, the kid he saw in his vision. He's like, look, man, I'm Ikaris of the Eternals. I'm going to protect you. Whatever happens, I'll be there for you. You just have to say it, and I'm going to save your life. And the kid's like, okay, that's good to know. Who are you? Kind of just like, oh, great. Am I having a dream? This is weird. But thank you. Okay. See you later, I guess. And it just leaves. And that's kind of how the book ends, where Ikaris is just floating over this kid's house, just waiting for him to realize that his god is pretty much there. It's kind of cool. I definitely liked this issue more than the last one. I think it flowed better. It had a more interesting narrative. The world building is happening in a more interesting way. The dialogue felt a little more compelling and unique. The artwork still remains okay. It's going to make some people go like, this is really brilliant and cool. To me, it's like, I get it. I don't really care for it. I'm not going to overthink it or overanalyze the artwork. It's just there. It's going to be for people. Or it's not. That's fine. It's turning out to be a completely mediocre book, which I'm okay with because I don't think you can ask for that much better from the Eternals. And it's going to make a lot of people go, oh, I can watch a movie on these guys. I definitely think the movie's going to be more streamlined than any of these comics just because the general audience is going to be made for Eternals, right? Like, okay, Eternals is going to be made for the general audience, I should say. The general audience is going to watch the Eternals movie, and it's going to have to make some sense, where in the comic book you can get a little more niche and specific in some of the ideas and activities that they go through, so I think it's going to be a little more convoluted in the comic than in the actual movie. That being said, I felt this book easy to follow through. The great science fiction stories were really interesting. The idea of a god being presented here, I like that a lot. And some great use of Thanos. I actually liked the use of Thanos for once, which is kind of exciting to say. I thought this was a pretty interesting book, and I think it's going to make a lot of people go, oh, I could see this being something I'd read. And that's all you can ask for, really. So, Eternals issue number 2, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.